The voice of the city.
98FM's Dublin Talks.
With Adrian Kennedy.
We're live every morning from 10 on 98FM.
You may have heard in the news earlier on today that Aiken Promotions has applied to Dublin City Council for a Croke Park gig licence for a gig to be held on Thursday the 17th of May. Tickets are already on sale for the 3 concerts, 2 Taylor Swift and 1 Michael Bublé, but now they want a 4th concert. But that's against the rules because Croke Park is only allowed 3. Well, residents living near and around Croke Park are to hold a public meeting to oppose more concerts taking place. And I'd love to hear from you on this on 6797 981. I'm joined on the line by Colm Stevens, who is from the Clonliffe and Croke Park Residents Association. Colm, welcome to 98FM.
Good morning.
Colm, what is the problem here? I understand that that they're allowed to have 3 gigs per year, but is one extra gig going to make that much difference?
Well, absolutely. It's a question of, first of all, it's on a weeknight, so it's planned for a Thursday evening, and as you can imagine, as you mentioned in your intro, it's not just the one night of the gig, but also construction work in the stadium going on from 8 o'clock as late as 1 a.m. the following morning on 18 consecutive nights. Now, some nights it was supposed to finish at 10 o'clock at night and other nights at 1 a.m. Can you imagine living next door to that? In a run-up to, can you imagine a family who are with school-going children, perhaps preparing for leaving cert or junior cert exams, or there's a lot of college students live in the area. That's right in the middle of the college exam season. So yes, it is going to make a difference. As you pointed out, living next door to a nightclub with 80,000 people isn't very, very, very pleasant. Okay,
now one argument is I chose not to buy a house near Croke Park, perhaps because of the inconvenience of having matches and concerts there. People who are living there chose to live there.
Yeah, that's true. But what we chose to live beside is a stadium that is designed and set up to run Gaelic games. And so, for example, I grew up in the area, and when I bought the house that I live in now, very close to the stadium, the practice was, and all had been for decades and over a century, to have matches on a Sunday afternoon. Now, it's a very, very different proposition than having a concert on a Thursday night. The whole atmosphere of the area changes. We have security guards. We have road closures. There's another issue. Can you imagine what it's going to be like on a Thursday evening when there's road closures around Croke Park during rush hour to facilitate concert goers getting to the stadium?
Let me find out about support. I was speaking to somebody only yesterday about this whole issue, and this particular person who lives in the locality had absolutely no problem at all with a 4th gig being held this year. Does every resident in the area agree?
No, absolutely. Of course not. There's people who might have different views, but the vast majority of people who live within the cordoned off area, this is the area immediately next to the stadium, will be, have real difficulty with this, getting to and from their homes, having to prove where they live to get through security barriers on a Thursday evening in the middle of the week. This is going to be difficult for the vast majority of people who live in the area.
Would you object then if a 4th concert were to be held on a Saturday?
Well, that is less bad, put it that way. But we have planning permission to regulate these kind of things. And Croke Park got planning permission in 1993, and it has an absolute clear and unambiguous statement that the maximum number of concerts or special events, as they're called, in the stadium should be 3. And the reason why, in any calendar year, and the reason why is to protect the area, and also, could I say, the businesses in the area. Not every business is going to benefit from this. In a whole swathe of the city, the whole northeast of the city is going to be put out by this as traffic comes to a standstill. As not every business is going to benefits from people going to concerts.
Okay, but by contrast, a lot of businesses will benefit greatly from 80,000 people in the city for an extra concert that wasn't planned. We're not quite sure who the concert will be. Rumours were the Rolling Stones, although I don't know how accurate that is. But still, 80,000 people coming to Dublin and coming to the North Inner City for a big gig is good for business, is it not?
Some businesses will benefit, that's true, but the main business that will benefit will be whoever this international artist is, who will take a whole pile of that money and move it outside Ireland. The other point is that how we're going to do our economic planning and our planning of the development of our city and our country is based on what Aiken Promotions decide is good for us? Would it not also be better that spread some of this around the country? The GAA, for example, have just developed a new stadium in Cork, but still they want to have 4 concerts in Dublin this year, one of which is not sold out and would easily be able to go to Cork. So, why can't this economic benefit be spread around?
How would you report to, the belief of some, not all, but of some, that residents like yourselves around Croke Park are killjoys?
How could you possibly say that? One extra gig this year or 2 years? We had a proposal before put to the city, the Croke Park, that we would come to an agreement with them where the number of gigs would be agreed over a 3-year rolling period, and they could have more than one in a certain year if it was limited to an average of 3 over a 3-year period. They rejected that idea, and they wouldn't accept any limitation at all.
Some people also believe that the reason residents object is that they will eventually get free tickets for gigs. Is that true?
No, of course not. There's no issue about tickets. Nobody wants tickets, and we don't get tickets, free tickets, or we get a very small number, but that's not what is motivating people. I talked to a resident the other day who got tickets for a concert last year, and he sent them back. He didn't want them. He doesn't care about whoever the artist was.
So with Aiken's having applied to Dublin City Council for planning permission for a 4th gig, your fight is going to be very intense, is it?
Well, no, what we're going to do is we're going to ask residents to make their views known to the council. We have a 3-week period of consultation now with the council, which finishes on March the 5th, and we're going to encourage people to make their views known. It's called an observation on the application for a licence, and to send that to the planning department in Dublin City Council.
Colm Stevens, PRO for the Clonliffe and Croke Park Residents Association, thanks very much indeed for joining us on 98FM. Lisa, you're on 98FM. How are you, Lisa?
Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Lisa, you're sick of residents around Croke Park whinging.
I really am, Adrian. It really, really pisses me off listening to them. They know exactly what they were buying into when they bought their houses. That's the economy. That's the way the world rolls. When this was all proven, that they're allowed 3 concerts. What was it, in the 90s or something?
It was in the 90s, and at the time, Croke Park had argued that this was we need these extra gigs to fund the building of the new Croke Park. That's long since over. It's long since paid for. And the residents put up with 3 gigs a year.
They put up with 3 gigs a year. Look at Adrian, they know where they're living. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't buy a house in Benidorm and then go and tell all the nightclubs, close up there at 12 o'clock, I want to go to sleep. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. And I think they're just those type of people. They're the same type of people that if you had a private housing estate and someone from social housing was put in, they'd be up in arms about that as well. Some people just like to moan. Do you know what I mean? Get over it. You know what you're living beside.
Get over it. You know what you're living beside.
Yeah, when you signed on the dotted line for your mortgage, you knew where you were going. You knew that was going to be part of your environment. So get over it and move on.
Okay, now, would you like to be a prisoner in your own home on a Thursday?
Well, they're not going to be prisoners in their own home. They're exaggerating that. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, you have to show a bit of ID when you're going up that you live there. Big deal. Roll your window down, show the pass, drive on. Do you know what I mean? It's not a massive inconvenience. It really isn't. But
you don't live there, so how would you know?
I don't live there, but, for instance, about 15 years ago, we bought a house, right, down the country, nice and remote, quiet, brilliant, lovely. Just for, a holiday home. It just apartment blocks all over it. Tough. That's the way the world rolls. you know, we ended up with not what we wanted. But that's what happens. You know, people get planning permission and there's, you know, apartment block built beside it. It's not quiet. It's dusty. It's, you know, the infrastructure has changed. Everything about the area has changed. But can I go and get a refund and say, you know, that's not what I bought? No, I can't. That's the way the world rolls. Get on. Move on.
Okay, the fact of the matter is, as I said, that Croke Park has an allowance for 3 special events per year. So they're basically 3 gigs per year. Some years they have all 3, other years they might not. It depends on what's happening that year. But they already have 3 booked in. So aren't the residents right to be complaining about this?
I think Croke Park, I think it needs to be changed at the top, that it needs to be increased. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we're going back to the whole Garth Brooks thing, you know, which was ridiculous. You know, the whole 5 concerts. I think from the top it needs to be changed, that there are exceptions allowed. You know, like there's money coming into the country. You know, his argument is they're bringing it back and they're spending it elsewhere. And what? You know, not everything. They're not taking every cent back. You know, it's creating employment with catering groups, with all the staff in Croke Park, and around the area, local shops and this, that and the other. So I don't see what their big issue is, and I think it's snobbery and a control thing, that, you know, that they think they're like the puppet master. They pull the strings and they shouldn't be allowed to.
So you believe that Croke Park should actually, rather than give in to the residents, should do the exact opposite and should apply for permission for what, 6, 8, 10 gigs a year?
Yeah, we say 10 a year.
10 gigs a year?
Yeah, or that they're not capped, that it's, you know, based on what comes up, what's good for the country, what's good for all the people in the country, not, you know, the few snobs that live around Croke Park who moan. And not everybody. He doesn't represent to everyone that lives at Croke Park, because I know people who live there who have no issue with it, who, you know, quite enjoy the fact that they can sit out in the garden and listen to live gigs. You know?
All right, well, stay there for 1 second, Lisa. Let's talk to a resident from Clonliffe Road, which, if you ever go to a GA match, is constantly closed off with people walking up and down Clonliffe Road. It's the same for a concert. Clonliffe Road will be closed off. Aisling, Thursday, what date is it? The 17th of May. Aikens have applied for another gig. We don't even know what the gig is yet, but you live on Clonliffe Road.
Yeah, I do.
Are you really, really upset that there might be a 4th gig?
No.
Oh.
No, it doesn't bother me. I know for people with cars now, for instance, they're kind of blocked in, if you know what I mean. But no, I think it's great fun. Like, you have to understand, it brings so much money into the area of Clonliffe Road. People buying stuff in the shop. The bed and breakfasts around there. I mean, take that, brought in 50 million.
And that's what you see. You see the dollar signs, do you?
Yeah, I see the amount of money it brings into that area. I see that the shops needed, and the takeaways and the pubs and all of that. You know,
now, as you will have heard a while ago, we were talking with Colm Stevens, who said that some businesses benefit, but not all.
I don't agree with that. Like, I'm a resident and have been a resident for many years on Clonliffe Road, and yeah, no, I don't really understand what they give out about, to be honest with you.
Okay, but let me find out. When you were buying or moving into where you live now on Clonliffe Road, did you obviously you knew you were near Croke Park, you obviously knew that there would be some inconvenience with matches and concerts and everything else, but you still made a decision to move in. You obviously weren't bothered by that, were you?
No, because it's fun, if you know what I mean. It's the atmosphere, everything, you know.
So say in July and August, when it's the middle of the gas season, there's big matches on every weekend. Does that inconvenience you at all?
No, I love it. I have to admit, I love it. I love everything about it. I love the atmosphere. I love everything's busy. You know, the local restaurant is always busy at that during those seasons, and it's just great. Everything. You know, no, I have to admit, it never bothered me, and I don't understand. I could never understand why the 5 Garth Brook concerts don't go ahead. I mean, most of us get free tickets, you know.
Now, I have to say, one of the questions I asked Colin earlier on was, do residents get free tickets? And he said that's not what this is about.
I can never understand, to be honest, what it is about with the Residents Association. I could never understand. They're always up in arms about something, and I look at the amount of money it brings in. I mean, we were going through a recession during the Garth Brooks, and that would have brought a lot of money into that area, and it's an area that really needs it.
Okay, stay there for 1 second. It's an area that really, really needs it. It doesn't inconvenience her at all. In fact, she loves it. She loves the atmosphere when there's matches on, when there's concerts on and everything else. As a matter of interest, Aisling, did you ever get free tickets for a gig?
Yeah, sometimes.
What did you get tickets for?
Like, I know that the place just gets dirty, but, by the end of the evening, you wouldn't even know there had been a concert by 11 o'clock. Like, it's over at 11, and then the place gets cleaned up. And by 2 o'clock in the morning, you'd hardly know there was a concert there.
All right, stay there for a second. Pauline, you're on 98FM. Hiya, Pauline.
Hello, Adrian.
Pauline, you actually support the residents in objecting to a fourth concert.
I absolutely support many of the residents. I'll tell you why. This allegation of people shouldn't buy houses in areas if they know there are concerts being held regularly in them is facetious. The point is, a lot of residents lived there for decades, long before these mega concerts, particularly elderly residents, you know what I mean? And why inconvenience them? These mega concerts should not be held in areas like that. They should be in open areas in the country, well away from residential houses, So the point is, I have a friend who lived there for decades in that similar, Summerhill area, kind of, near it. But she said the inconvenience would be horrendous with traffic and all sorts of stuff on Sundays. Well, she doesn't mind the GAA matches so much because a different crowd tend to go to football and sporting events. You get more of a younger crowd who are more rowdy, more disruptive, to these mega concerts, And I feel that, I'm sick and tired of hearing this. You shouldn't buy houses in these areas. People are living there for decades, particularly elderly people who are intimidated by all the rowdiness, It's not fair on them.
Okay, the gigs that are there this year so far, okay, let's just look at what they are. Taylor Swift.
Yeah, who would go to Taylor Swift? Certainly teenagers, certainly not middle-aged people.
No, but they're not going to intimidate anybody. They're teenagers.
Oh,
okay, that's one. And then the other gig is Michael Bublé. And quite honestly, I can't see Michael Bublé gig goers as the sort of people who are going to be intimidating you on their way home.
I granted Michael Bublé is very popular with the middle age groups and 30s.
And then the other gig that was being talked about, I don't know whether this is the actual fourth gig, but certainly it's the one that was rumoured, was the Rolling Stones. And again, if it were the Rolling Stones, I can't see the sort of people who would go to a Rolling Stones gig as causing antisocial behaviour in the area.
No, I can probably not. But you have to agree that they're pushing this. Who are these Aiken promotions? Every year they're pushing it further, the envelope further, for more gigs and more events. And it's grossly unfair on residents, particularly the elderly, as I make the point. It's unfair on them to have to put up with this,
But you've just heard from one resident who doesn't have a problem at all.
Yeah, but look at her. She sounds quite young.
Are you quite young, Aisling?
No.
But thanks
for a very young voice.
Thanks for the compliment and all that, isn't that it?
Yeah. But there's plenty of security, there's plenty of guards around. There's frontline security.
Oh, come on now. Gardaí can only control a certain amount. I mean, you have mega concerts like this, you have vast crowds.
Well, like you said, with any of the concerts...
Minimum,
Would any of the concerts...
Sorry, Aisling, let me ask you, in terms of, what she's saying is there's, antisocial behaviour and it's intimidating for particularly elderly residents and so on.
Who have lived there for decades, Adrian, as you well know.
Yes. So they should be
before these mega concerts.
They should be well used to it, shouldn't they?
that doesn't mean to say they have to put up with constant,
I mean, is this okay? You're saying they've lived there for decades. Is this not the exact same thing as people who've lived beside Dublin Airport for years complaining about the noise of the airplanes? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the noise of the airplanes, it's not massive amounts of crowds and people.
Sorry, Pauline, it's all day, every day, the sound of the airplanes. Now, I know we live near the airport. I hear airplanes all day, every day. It doesn't bother me in the slightest.
I know people who live up in Swords and they get used to it all right.
That's the point.
The airport. Well, yeah, but I do see a slight difference, a marked difference.
Lisa, this is particularly bad for elderly residents.
Adrian, all I hear there with Pauline is snobbery. I think that she's using the elderly residents as an excuse. I'd like you to give me an example, Pauline, of any damage that has been caused to any elderly or otherwise residents around Croke Park. Has there ever been anyone assaulted or their property, damaged? What's wrong? What has happened?
I don't know if anyone has been assaulted. I'm talking about the fear that elderly people do have when there are mass crowds of particularly young people trouncing through the area.
Stop, Pauline, blaming young people on everything. Do you know what I mean? I think that's horrible. I think the way you're being selective with
well, if you go to these events, there's drink, there's drugs openly being sold in these areas,
right.
And particularly areas like Croke Park. I imagine you get a lot of that. And I mean,
did you see that, Pauline? No, Pauline, have you ever witnessed that with your eyes? You're talking hearsay. Okay, so you're talking hearsay, and I'd love you to be able to give me one example.
I'm talking from examples of people.
Okay.
Where there are concerts, there's going to be drugs. There's going to be massive amounts of drink.
Can we have one example of any person who has been injured physically or emotionally or any way at all as a direct result of being in the vicinity of Croke Park, of living there? Has there ever been one instance of someone being physically hurt? No,
I don't know about that. The point is, I think it's grossly unfair to disrupt people's lives who really should are put on the margins and put on the sidelines when they give their opinion.
This is the world we live in, Pauline. We must move with the times. We don't live in the 1950s where everyone closed their door and went to bed at 10 o'clock. That's just the world we live in. Do you know what I mean?
You see, Pauline, a lot of people believe, and you heard one of our earlier callers, in fact, it was Lisa, who said, in fact, we should be going the opposite way with this. We have a facility like Croke Park. They should apply to do 10 gigs a year, and the residents should just get over it.
The point is, as somebody was saying there earlier on, your first speaker, they're constantly pushing this envelope for more and more concerts on a yearly basis. I mean, this is greed on promoters' part, and whoever, they don't give a toss about the residents in the area who are complaining. They don't give two hoots as long as their bank accounts are fattened.
But not only...
But it's not an emotional debate.
I was about to say, it's not just there. You talk about promoters and the artists and whatever. It's not just...
Promoters doesn't give two hoots about
what I was about to say, Pauline, is it's not just their bank account that will get swelled. It is the bank account of countless amounts of business in the immediate vicinity of Croke.
As that man said earlier on the first you had on from the Residents Association, it only affects very few businesses that benefit.
That's lies. No, it doesn't just affect you.
You can't say that.
Go down excuse me. You drive down Drumcondra and you will see thriving businesses when there's an event on in Croke Park. You've only to drive through and look at the crowds on footpaths, in restaurants, in local shops, and local people selling wares. You can see them selling scarves, hats, whatever it is. So don't say that it's, just a select few businesses, because that's not true. And I know it's not true.
That man seems to be a first-hand experience.
That man seems to be saying what he thinks he should say rather than what's facts. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, but Lisa, let me read this message that's just come in. Your caller keeps saying that they knew what they were getting into when they bought their homes. Yes, they did, but now they are trying to change the conditions from when they bought.
And like I gave an example, Adrian, of myself personally, when we bought a house years back in a very remote area with no influence around us, do you know what I mean, right? It's changed now. There's an apartment block and everything around it has changed. But that is life. You know, buildings will go up, your surroundings will change, and you know what? You have to just suck it up and get on. That's progression. That's the economy. It's the way the world rolls, and that's it.
All right, stay there for 1 second. 6797 981 is our telephone number. You can text or WhatsApp us 0877 98 98 98. I live in Ballybock, right beside Croke Park, and the crowds pass my house. We on this road have no problem with the extra concert going on. It's great for the area and it makes the whole place feel so upbeat. And that was your point, Aisling. You actually love the buzz. You love the atmosphere when there's matches or when there's gigs on.
Yeah, I do. I mean, you have to remember there's 82,000 people going to the concerts. And you have to remember all the businesses, all the restaurants, they're all full. From all day long, then the pubs and the thing and the local shop. I mean, that gets daybreak. I mean, my God, you have all the workers before the concert starts just putting up the thing, going in there, getting their break. And yeah, I think it really does. It really does make a big difference. And I mean, there's no alcohol being sold out in the open. You're not allowed on the roads with alcohol. They check your bags. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of security. And they check your bags before you go in. So, yes.
Okay, let me ask you this question then. As somebody who's lived there for a number of years, has anything bad happened? Would there be anything that has happened to you or your house or your family in the last...
have to say, there was one, the Robbie Williams concert in, I think, 2006, was it? There was somebody waiting for the bus, broke a window of a fire brigade. So that did happen. But I've never heard of any damage to thing or no. Certainly not to me and certainly not to anybody around that I know of. There's been no problems. I mean, I think it's great, like, and when they go home, you know, they're laughing, they're talking, they're singing. Yeah, I think it's really bright. I don't know why there isn't more. I could never understand why there wasn't more.
And in fact, somebody just texted in a couple of minutes ago, this is great news, extra concerts, because our amazing stadium, Croke Park, sits idle for most of the year.
Yes, I 100% agree. It does sit idle, and I can't understand. I mean, you have to be... I mean, I'm sure you've been to one of the concerts in Croke Park.
I have, of course, yeah.
I mean, my God, it's so hot. You know, everyone is there. And the business, it just makes... you look forward to it. I look forward to it anyway. I have to admit, I look forward to it.
And does it frustrate you when you hear... Does it frustrate you when you hear groups of residents objecting?
Oh, I'm always arguing with them. I can't understand it. I really can't. If it was up to me, there'd be a concert every week. All
right, stay there for 1 second. If it was up to her and she lives on Clonliffe Road, there would be a concert every week. 6797 981 is our telephone number. Sandra, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Sandra?
How's it going?
Sandra, you actually have a friend who lives beside Croke Park.
Yeah.
And she believes that this sort of campaign against extra gigs is a very small minority of people.
Very small. Well, he's been there now 6 years. And he's a very good friend of ours. We go there every now and then for matches, and we'll always call into him. And he says the atmosphere is phenomenal when matches and concerts and everything are on, and that he's never had an ounce of trouble.
Not a bit of trouble?
No, never.
And we just heard from that lady, Aisling. She's had no trouble either. I know, certainly, I go to lots of matches in Croke Park during the summer months, and I've never seen anything in by way of trouble. Nothing whatsoever. Ever. I've never even seen somebody...
It's the very same.
I've never even seen somebody piss in a garden. So, and I'm sure it does happen, but I've never witnessed it.
No, he's the same now. He said they've never had any trouble, not an ounce of trouble. He said the atmosphere going to and from matches and concerts is unreal.
Okay, so you believe that this is being orchestrated by a very small minority of residents in the area?
Yeah, from what he tells me, he seems to think that it's only a handful of residents that actually have an issue, and it only takes one person to make an issue for everybody else.
Of course, yes.
you know, and that's, he says that the amount of residents and neighbours and friends that he has around him never have an issue and want to see more concerts happening at Croke Park.
And that, I have to say, seems to be the overwhelming opinion, although it has to be said when it came to the Garth Brooks gigs a couple of years ago, that the gigs that never were, the residents did win out in the end.
Yeah, again, that was a minority of the residents, though, because there was an awful lot, there was a big hoo-ha, because I remember my friend telling us, he said that it was literally only about 5 or 6 residents that had the initial complaint, and that they did win overall, after all of that the majority of the residents were looked over the Garth Brooks concert.
All right. I have lived right beside the main entrance to Croke Park for 53 years. So there's that first man who was on your show, and that was Colm Stevens from the Clonliffe and Croke Park Residents Association. Does that man not remember the old Croke Park? Simple Minds, U2, and lots of others played there. So it's not a new phenomenon. And there's another message. I just saw an application for planning permission for the concerts in Malahide in June in a paper. They have already sold the tickets before permission was granted. What a joke. Now, that is an ongoing thing. If you listen to ads for concerts, it will have a kind of a proviso at the end of it saying subject to planning or subject to licence. They haven't got the licence yet. But they regularly advertise subject to licence. Jay, you're on 98FM. How are you, Jay?
How are you doing, Adrian?
Jay, you actually support the residents in whatever percentage of residents it happens to be.
Yeah, I do, because like when you got the permission to build it and add on these extra concerts and all that, like the people in the area agreed to it. They got X amount of concerts per year. Now they're trying to push that up. Now, you and I both know that if you get this next year, there'll be another one. The year after, there'll be another 2. You know what I mean? They'll just keep pushing it up and up. And you had that other resident, or that other girl there ringing up, talking about when she bought a house down the country and now it's all changed. She had the chance to object to the planning permission back then as well. Whether she done it or not, I don't know. She could have. And it didn't work.
But one of the points she's making is that, that's progress. It's like, I know there are a lot of objections out near Dublin Airport, people complaining about the second runway, but that second runway is going to go ahead.
I understand that, but like what I'm saying is, like you're talking about the people that bought there complaining about the noise. They're not. They're complaining about the extra noise that wasn't there when they bought. Like there has to be something for that. You can't just buy a house and you stick an airport on top of you and then turn it tough look, you know what was happening. You know what I mean?
So when... a lot of people...
Like something like that, they plop next door to you. It wasn't there. It was never planned to be there. When you bought your house, you weren't told that.
Well, I can tell you, Jay, we live near the airport. We live about 1.5 kilometres away from the second runway. Now, it's not built yet, but it will be built. And even if it makes more noise in our house, I don't have a problem with it because...
Yeah, but that's you, person. You don't have a problem with it. Great, don't object. The people that do have a problem with it will object.
Because the reason I don't object to it is because I see it as progress, necessary progress to make this a bigger and better country.
I totally understand that, but hang on a second. A gig in Croke Park isn't going to make this a bigger or better country in any way, shape or form.
I would disagree with you. I think it brings in millions of euro into our city from all over Ireland, from the north.
So it's just bringing it all into Dublin, you mean, and not the rest of the country.
I do.
We've a big enough country.
Okay, one thing.
The GAA have plenty of stadiums around the country.
One thing that Colm Stevens did say when I talked to him earlier on that I kind of agree with is perhaps they should be using venues like Páirc Uí Chaoimh in Cork, which is now fantastic.
They have loads of stadiums. They have Semple Stadium in Thurles. They have loads of them. Why does it have to be in Dublin?
Because that's where the majority population is in reality, Jay.
But they, like you said, they all travel to Dublin from everywhere else. So they travel there from Dublin as well.
So you totally agree. You think this is like the thin end of the wedge. If they get away with this, there'll be 5 gigs next year, 6 gigs the year after.
You know it will. So they already tried it with Garth Brooks and got shut down. Now they're trying it. Instead of 3 extra nights, it's 1 extra night, is it? Or 1 extra gig.
Well, 1 extra gig, yeah.
Yeah, so instead of putting 3 nights on, they're putting 1 or whatever, you know what I mean?
But you can hear, and you have heard, one particular resident saying that she has no problem. In fact, she
loves... But there must be plenty of residents that are saying they do have a problem with it.
Another lady, and it's not another lady, as you just heard, and it's not the first time I've heard this, that the objecting residents are a minority rather than a majority.
Well, that's the way it is, though. But that's the planning laws are there. If you don't like something, you object to it.
Okay, but stay there for 1 second, because Paul, you think that it's a disgrace that so much money could be lost?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like I was a worker there in Croke Park 2 years ago, and due to the guard brooks that time when I was supposed to be in work, everything fell through. So all I had was matches. Now, for all the people who spent thousands and whatever, God knows how much it was. Think of them that lost the money all down to residents. Now, to me now, from what I've heard, that there's a little small majority of a little committee that gets together. And what this committee do is they go in and obviously reject what's going on in the area. Now, you think of all the workers, think of the guards, the security, stewards, catering, bar staff, and so many managers and supervisors that are losing out on money there. Of course, it's a disgrace. And but
they have that concept down the country. They'll have the same people.
It doesn't matter. Look at the Aviva Stadium. Look at the Aviva Stadium. That's in a build-up area, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's different to the Aviva Stadium than the Croke Park? It's all because there's just a small majority.
No, because there's people over there objecting. Hang on a second.
No, they're greedy and they don't want
hang on, there's people over the south side object to them as well.
Yeah, boy, it's like you don't get that in the newspaper. What about your man down in Galway that's down in Galway, lives down in Galway that objected to the thing in Croke Park? Now don't laugh because I read this in the newspaper. It's been on the internet. He lives in Galway and he owns a house on Clongriff Road and he rejected to that. Now,
it doesn't even live. Okay, let me ask you, Paul. You've heard the arguments against an extra gig. Rules are rules. Croke Park has a permission to have 3 gigs a year, and now they're just pushing it, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse.
It's not pushing it. I wouldn't call it pushing it now. It's just looking for a bit of more extra thing for the community, a bit more extra.
Yeah, but then next year there'll be another idea.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. How many gigs do we leave a hold? Well, how many gigs do we leave a hold? You know they're off by chance. But you know they're off by chance.
They have 1 or 2 concerts in Marley Park, and they're up in arms over that.
Right, but like, you know what I mean? Yeah, but why?
It's the same thing. Why?
If it's bringing money, look at we're suffering with crisis here in Ireland. We can't afford to
this is the same money. This isn't new money.
They're going out spending money on buildings when we can have...
Sorry, lads, I can't hear when both of you are shouting at each other. The fact of the matter is, Paul, you think residents should just chill out and allow 1 more gig to go ahead?
Of course, look at if that's the thing. Well then, do a vote in the area. A hold some sort of thing where all the people in the area come together and put it down on the line. Say, look at.
Mind you, Paul, all it takes for any type of planning permission is 1 person to object.
Of course.
Look what happened in Galway when Apple tried to build a big data centre. 1 person objecting to it.
Of one person, but what happened to the billions of euro or whatever it was worth? How come we didn't follow that up?
It was Apple, so it wasn't worth anything to us.
It doesn't matter. Look, they're making there's phones being sold, there's everything being sold every day here. And
you don't pay tax. And you don't pay tax, so what's the matter?
All right, okay, maybe not a great example, but the point I'm trying to make is that planning permission by its very nature, all you need is 1 person to object to it. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on that story.
The voice of the city.
98FM's Dublin Talks.
With Adrian Kennedy.
We're live every morning from 10 on 98FM.